I swear for Bob, they be taking my pen all the time. Hold on. All right, y'all. I gotta put my stuff up in another place. Not here because they keep touching my stuff. All right, y'all. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. Audrey, Shalom, Shayla. Great Rising. That Twabu Talay. Hey, girl. Hey, Alicia. Hope you're enjoying your vacation, girl. All right, y'all. It is April the 15th, 2022, day 83 of year 4 of reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets, and of the 4-year consecutive day count, it is day 1101. Auntie, shalom, shalom. I saw you just put out the APB on me. Still getting my time under control in the morning. I've been up. I baffle myself how in the morning sometimes I am still late and I be up. I really be up, y'all. Like, there's no excuse for me coming in like 3-5 minutes late. I be trying to do too much in the morning. Hold on, y'all. Okay. Y'all, we're going to pick back up where we paused at in the OAHSPE. On page 3. The voice of man. And then we're going to pick up where we left off at in meditation on page 36. All right, so let's get this show started. Father, thank you for another day. Continue to lead us and guide us into all truth. Uncle JB, Grand Rising. Mom, shalom, shalom. All right, y'all. The voice of man. O Jehovah, what am I that I should supplicate thee? Know I mine own weakness, or understand I the way of my thoughts? Thou hast placed before me most wonderful creations. They impress me, and my senses rise up in remembrance of the Almighty. Wherein have I invented one thought, but by looking upon thy works? How can I otherwise remember my Creator? And out of thy creations, O Jehovah, find rich food for meditation all the days of my life. And yet, though I have appropriated the earth unto myself, I am not happy nor perfect withal. Misery and crime and selfishness are upon my people. What is my weakness that I cannot overcome it? Or what is my strength that I succumb to the desires of the earth? I build up my belief and courage in thee, but ere I know the way of my weakness, I stumble and fall. I am made that I shall be forever a reproof to myself and a censure to my own behavior. How shall I say to this man or that, be thou pure and holy, O man? Are not my flesh and blood proof that man cannot be without sin? O this corruptible self, this tendency to fall from the right way, thou, O my Creator, hast proven before my senses every day of my life that thou alone art mighty in purity and truth. O that I had a starting point wherefrom to estimate thy wonderful decrees, or could find a road in which I should never stumble. But yet, O Jehovah, I will not complain because of the way of thy works. Thou hast invented a limit to my understanding, whereby I am reminded of thee to call upon thy name. I perceive my own vanity, that whereas were knowledge mine, I should become less beholding unto thee. What am I, O Jehovah, without thee? Or wherein shall I find the glory of thy creations, but by the light of thy countenance? Thou broughtest me forth out of sin and darkness, and clothed me in light. I behold the smallness of myself in thy great works. Thou hast bound me to travel on the earth. to sojourn with beasts and all manner of creeping things, nor give me one attribute wherein I can boast over them, save in the power of destruction. The high firmament placed thou above me, the stars and the moon and the sun. I know thou hast been thither, but I am bound down in a little corner of thy works. I have not power to rise up to thy distant places, nor to know thy extended heavens. Nay, I have not power to shape my own size and stature, but all things take form and dimension, whether I will or no. In thine own way are built the walls of the world. By their magnitude I am confounded, by the majesty of thy hand appalled. Why have I vainly set up myself as the highest of thy works? My failures are worse than any other living creature under the sun. I cannot build my house in perfection like a bird's. My ingenuity cannot fashion a spider's net. I cannot sail up in the air like a bird, nor live in the water like the fish, nor dwell in harmony like the bee. The half of my offspring die in infancy. The multitude of my household are quarrelers, fighters, drunkards, and beggars. The best of my sons and daughters are less faithful than a dog. Jeez. And the dog we know is faithful. The half of my offspring die in infancy. The multitude of my household are quarrelers, fighters, drunkards, and beggars. The best of my sons and daughters are less faithful than a dog. I go forth to war to slay my brother, even whilst thy wide earth hath room for all. Yea, I accurse the earth with starvation and sin and untimely death. Oh, that I could school myself to boast not of my greatness, that I should be forever ashamed in thy sight, Jehovah. Unto thee I will acknowledge Unto thee I will acknowledge my iniquities, and it has footnote number 1 beside iniquities, and it says, but I will make a clean breast of my iniquities. I can hide nothing from the eye of my Creator. Hear me then, O Father. I took up arms against my brother. With great armies I encompassed him about to despoil him. Oh, the footnote ended. I'm sorry, I just kind of kept reading. Okay. It ended after it said, but I will make a clean breast of my iniquities. Okay. I took up arms against my brother. With great armies I encompassed him about to despoil him. His widows and orphans I multiplied by the stroke of my sword. The cry of anguish that came out of their mouth I answered by the destruction of my brother's harvest. To my captains and generals who showed great skill in killing, I built monuments in stone and iron. Yea, I inscribed them from top to bottom with their bloody victories. And in my vanity I called out to the young, saying, behold, the glory of great men. These great monuments I have built unto them, and the youth of my household were whetted with ambition for spoil. The example of my hand made them train themselves for warfare. To my colonels and generals I gave badges of gold. I called to the damsels, saying, come, a great honor I give to you. Ye shall dance with the officers of death. And they tripped up on tiptoe, elated by the honey of my words. O Jehovah, how have I not covered up my wickedness? How have I failed to make the flow of my brother's blood the relish of Satan? To my destroying hosts I have given great honor and glory. In the pretense of enforcing peace, I have hewed my way in flesh and blood. I have made great pretensions in the kingdom. Then it has reference number 2 after kingdom, and it says, I made an igneous fatuous. I made an ingenious fatuous, a kingdom. Okay. I have made great pretensions in a kingdom. I called out to my people, saying, we must have a kingdom. I showed them no reason for it, but I bade them take up arms and follow me for patriotism's sake. And yet, what was patriotism? Behold, I made it as something greater than thee, and thy commandment, thou shalt not kill. Oof. Yea, by the cunning of my words, I taught them my brother was my enemy, that to fall upon him and his people and destroy them was great patriotism. And they ran at the sound of my voice, for my glory in the darkness of my kingdom, and they committed great havoc. And after committed, it has reference 3, and it says accomplished. Okay, so go back. And they ran at the sound of my voice, for my glory in the greatness of my kingdom, and they committed great havoc. Yea, I built colleges for training my young men in warfare. I drew a boundary hither and thither, saying, this is my kingdom, all others are my enemies. I flattered the young men with the work of death. I said, ye men of war, and it has reference number 4, and says, I patted my young men on the head, saying, ye dogs of war. So I'm going to go back. I flattered the young men with the work of death. I said, ye men of war, great shall be your glory. And their judgment was turned away from peace. I made them think that righteousness was to stand up for me and my country, and to destroy my brother and his people. They built me forts and castles and arsenals without number. I called unto my people, saying, come, behold the glory of my defenses, which I built for you. And they gave me money and garrisons and ships of war and torpedoes, shouting, hurrah for our kingdom. We have faith in these things more than in thee, our creator. And it has reference number 5 after more than, and it says things but not in thee. Okay. We have faith in these things but not in thee, our creator. Thus I led them away from thee. Their eyes I turned down in the way of death. By the might of my armies I put away righteousness. I covered the earth over with drunkards and widows and orphans. To beggary I reduced them, but I whetted their pride by saying, behold, what great standing armies we have. To the man that said, there shall come a time of peace, when war shall be no more forever. I mocked and said, thou fool. I know the counts against me, O Father. I cannot hide my iniquity from thy sight. I have said war was necessary to prevent a too populous world. I turned my back toward the wide, unsettled regions of the earth. With this falsehood in my mouth, I stood up before thee. Yea, I cried out as if for the righteous, saying, I war for the righteous and for the protection of the weak. In the destruction of my brethren, I stood as a murderer, pleading this excuse. Stubbornly, I persisted in not seeing justice on the other side, whilst I cut down whom thou hast created alive. Above the works of thy hand, I raised myself up as a pruning knife in the vineyard. Boy, this sound like today and what we're doing all over the world. Jerry, O great spirit creator of our spirit in this body, let us walk in truth and wisdom. Yes, amen. This definitely sounds like mankind today, right? Yea, I cried out as if for the righteous, saying, I war for the righteous and for the protection of the weak. In destruction of my brethren, I stood as a murderer, pleading this excuse. Stubbornly, I persisted in not seeing justice on the other side, whilst I cut down whom thou hast created alive. Above the works of thy hand, I raised myself up as a pruning knife in thy vineyard. Yea, more than this, I persuaded my sons and daughters that to war for me was to war for our Father in heaven. By such blasphemy, I led them into ruin. And it has a footnote, reference number 6, by such, and it says by such, or by my blasphemy, I led them into ruin. And when the battle was over for a day, I cried out, Behold the glory of them that were slain for the honor of their country. Thus I have added crime to crime before thee, Jehovah, thus destroyed thy beautiful creation. Verily have I not one word in justification of my deeds before thee. Oh, that I had remained faithful with thee, Jehovah, but I invented gods unto the glory of the evil one. In one place I called out to my sons and daughters, saying, Be ye Brahmins. Brahma saveth whoever professes his name. In another place I said, Be ye Buddhists. Buddha saveth whosoever calleth on his name. In another place I said, Be ye Christians. Christ saveth whoever calleth on his name. In another place I said, Be ye Mohammedans. Whoever saith there is but one God and Muhammad is his prophet shall have indulgence without sin. Thus I have divided the earth, O Jehovah, into 4 great idolatries. I have founded them, and into their hands put all manner of weapons of destruction, and they are become more terrible against one another than are the beasts of the forest. Oh, that I could put away these great iniquities, which I raised up as everlasting torments to the earth. Verily, there is no salvation in any of these. Their people are forever destroying one another. They quarrel and kill for their respective religions, setting aside thy commandment, thou shalt not kill. They love their own nation and hate all others. They set aside thy commandment, love thy neighbor as thyself. They preach and pray in sufficient truth, but not one of these people practice peace, love, and virtue in any degree commensurate with their understanding. These religions have not saved from sin any nation or city on the whole earth. In vain I have searched for a plan of redemption, a plan that would make the earth a paradise, and the life of man a glory unto thee, and a joy unto himself. But alas, the 2 extremes, riches and poverty, have made the prospect of a millennium a thing of mockery. For one man that is rich, there are 1,000 poor, and their interests are in interminable conflict with one another. Let me read that again. I read it too fast. For one man that is rich, there are 1,000 poor, and their interests are an interminable conflict with one another. Labor crieth out in pain, but capital smiteth him with a heartless blow. Nation is against nation, king against king, merchant against merchant, consumer against producer, yea, man against man, in all things upon the earth. Because the state is rotten, the politician feedeth thereon. Because society is rotten, the lawyer in court have riches and sumptuous feasts. Because the flesh of my people is rotten. That might be our title. The flesh of my people is rotten. Because the state is rotten, the politician feedeth thereon. Because society is rotten, the lawyer and court have riches and sumptuous feasts. Because the flesh of my people is rotten, the physician findeth a harvest of comfort. Now, O Jehovah, I come to thee. Thou holdest the secret of peace and harmony and goodwill amongst mortals. Give me thy light, O Father. Show me the way of proceeding, that war and crime and poverty may come to an end. Open thou the way of peace and love and virtue and truth, that thy children may rejoice in their lives and glorify thee and thy works forever. Such is the voice of man, O Jehovah, in all the nations of the earth. This voice riseth up to thee, as thou spakest to Zarathustra and to Abraham and to Moses, leading them forth out of darkness. O speak thou, Jehovah. Man hath faith in thee only. Thou alone was sufficient in the olden time. Today thou alone art sufficient unto thy own creation. Speak thou, O Jehovah. And that was the end of this first section, entitled The Voice of Man. That sound like our voice still today. All the way from 1881, when this was first published, That's still the same voice we got today. Trina, hey girl, hey. All right, so this next section is the Book of Jehovah, right? So at the top, it says, wherein is revealed the three great worlds, corporal, atmospherical, and ethera. As in all other Bibles, it is revealed that this world was created. So in this Bible, it is revealed that the Creator created it. As other Bibles have proclaimed heavens for the spirits of the dead, behold, this Bible revealeth where these heavens are, and the manner and glory and work that the spirits of the dead enjoy, whereby the wisdom, power, love, and glory of the Almighty are magnified for the understanding of man. And then it has a writing like a hieroglyph. It looks more like a paleo hieroglyph, but it's not paleo Hebrew. It's not even Sumerian. It looks a little different. It's definitely not cuneiform. Cuneiform is like lines and look like arrows and lines in different directions. Okay, I'm showing it for Facebook. So if you want to screenshot that, you can. If you don't have the OAHSPE, you can kind of look at it. All right, so now for YouTube, hold up a little bit higher for you so you can see. Okay. And under that hieroglyphic portion, it says, apology. The universe is full. All things are members. Speech they have, bid them speak. The recorder of their words be thou. Such is panic or earth language, the first language. What saith the bird, the beast, the stars, the sun, all? It is their souls speaking. The soul hear thou and repeat it. This light leadeth thee to origin. And it has number 2. For a footnote, I must have missed number 1. Hold on. I missed number 1. I'll just read what number 1 is. Okay. The light leadeth thee to origin. So, number 1, it says, this paragraph does not appear in the 1882 edition. Whatever paragraph. Oh, okay, I see it. The whole top part, right? Under the Book of Jehovah, that first portion that I read, it's the footnote that it just all kind of blended into me. That's the portion that didn't appear in the 1882 edition. And then for the reference number 2, this light leadeth thee to origin, it says this apology does not appear in the 1882 edition. Okay, so this whole little top part didn't appear. This part, nor this part. None of this appeared in the 1882 version. Okay. Chapter 1 in the Book of Jehovah. Let me see. I'm wondering if this splits. No. Okay, this one don't split. Okay. Chapter 1. All was, all is, all ever shall be. The all spake, and motion was, and is, and ever shall be. And being positive, was called he and him. The all motion was his speech. He said, I am, and he comprehended all things, the seen and the unseen. Nor is there aught in all the universe but what is part of him. Nor is there aught in all the universe but what is part of him. He said, I am the soul of all, and the all that is seen is of my person and my body. By virtue of my presence, all things are. By virtue of my presence is life. By virtue of my presence are the living brought forth into life. I am the quickener, the mover, the creator, the destroyer. I am first and last. Of two apparent entities am I. Nevertheless, I am but one. These entities are the unseen, which is potent, and the seen, which is of itself impotent. and called corpor. With these two entities, in likeness thereby of myself, made I all the living. For as the life is the potent part, so is the corporal part the impotent part. Chief over all that live on earth, I made man. Male and female made I them. And that man might distinguish me, I commanded him to give me a name. By virtue of my presence commanded I him. And man named me, not after anything in heaven or on the earth. In obedience to my will, he named me after the sounds of the wind uttered. Hold on. Oh, this is good. Hold on. Okay, so I've been learning something. Okay. Hold on. This is good. Oh, snap. Hold on. Something just clicked for me. Okay. Y'all get... Oh, wait. No wonder why this worked. Hold on. Okay. So you know the book that I told you about, the 72 angels of the 72 angels of the 72 angels of magic by Damon Brand. Okay, so you know in the beginning he teaches you how to pronounce certain words and the sound, not necessarily words, but he sounds them out and he put them in big block English letters and he spells it the way it sounds. Not that it's necessarily spelled that way, but he spells it in a way like you look in a dictionary and you see the word and then you see letters on how to pronounce the word the correct way. That's how he puts it in there with speaking the creator's name or different angels' names and everything, right? This is what that is. And it's not necessarily the word that you're pronouncing, but it's the sound, right? Which is why frequency and understanding frequency is so powerful. Something really just clicked about all of that I had been studying and looking into and just kind of testing and tasting the pudding. Okay, listen, I'm going to read it over. Chief over all that live on the earth, I made man, male and female made I them, and that man might distinguish me, I commanded him to give me a name. By virtue of my presence commanded I him, and man named me, not after anything in heaven or on the earth. In obedience to my will, he named me after the sounds of the wind. I keep saying of. In obedience to my will, named he me after the sounds the wind uttereth, and he said, E-O-A, right? E-O-A. So if you have that book, if you flip through it, you will notice anytime you call on the name of the creator, it's that sound, right? In obedience to my will, named he me after the sound the wind uttereth, and he said, E-O-A, which is now pronounced Jehovah, and is written thus. And then it has the symbol, right, that they use to signify Jehovah. This right here, this little, can you see it? The little, right here. The little cross in a circle with that thing in the middle. What's in the middle? A leaf. Oh, the leaf blowing representing the wind. Oh, I get it. Okay. Everybody, look. They done completely removed the leaf. The sound. Because you can't see sound, so you would have to see something blowing in the wind. Okay, chapter 2. Jehovah said, by virtue of my presence, created I the seen and the unseen worlds, and I commanded man to name them, and man named the seen worlds corpor, and the unseen worlds S, and the inhabitants of corpor, C-O-R-P-O-R, and S is E-S. Let me just read it again. Okay, so it has reference 3 and 4 in here after named corpor and named corporeans. In the reference it just says called. So man named or called. And I commanded man to name them, and man named the seen worlds corpor, CORPOR, and the unseen worlds, SES, and the inhabitants of corpor, man named Corporeans, but the inhabitants of S he called sometimes Esseans. Oh, Essean. I said S. Forgive me, I'm messing it up. But the inhabitants of S he sometimes called Esseans, and sometimes spirits, and sometimes angels. Jehovah said, I created the earth and fashioned it and placed it in the firmament, and by my presence brought man forth a living being, a corporal body, or a fleshly body. A corporal body gave I him that he might learn corporal things, and death I made that he might rise in the firmament and inherit my Etherian worlds. To S, or the spirit realm, to S I gave dominion over corpor. With S I filled all place in the firmament. But corpor I made into earths and moons and stars and suns. Beyond number made I them, and I caused them to float in the places I allotted them. S I divided into two parts, and I commanded man to name them, and he named or called one Ethera and the other Atmosphere. These are the three kinds of worlds I created, but I gave different densities to atmospherian worlds and different densities to the Etherian worlds. For the substance of my Etherian worlds, I created Ethe, the most rarefied. Out of Eth I made them, and I made Eth the most subtle of all created things, and gave to it power and place, not only by itself, but also power to penetrate and exist within all things, even in the midst of the corporeal worlds. And to Eth I gave dominion over both atmosphere and corporal. In the all highest places created I the Etherian worlds, and I fashioned them of all shapes and sizes, similar to my corporal worlds. But I made the Etherian worlds inhabitable, both within and without, with entrances and exits, and arches and curves, thousands of miles high and wide, and overruled them I with perfect or all perfect mechanism, and in colors and movable chasms and mountains and endless change and brilliancy. To them I gave motions and orbits and courses of their own. Independent made I them, and above all other worlds in potency and majesty. Neither created I one Etherian world like another in size or density or in component parts, but every one differing from another, and with a glory matchless, each in its way. And we're just going to read to the end of this chapter, and we're going to pause since we're already over the 30-minute mark. We only got, 3 more verses. I read 7 again. Neither created I one Etherian world like another in size or density or in component parts, but every one differing from another, and with a glory matchless, each in its way. Atmospherian worlds I created in the firmament, and I gave them places and orbits and courses for themselves. But atmospherian worlds I created shapeless and void of fixed form, for they are in the process of condensation or dissolution, being intermediate in condition betwixt my Etherian and corporeal worlds, between my Etherian and my corporeal worlds. Of 3 degrees of density created I them, and I commanded man to name them, and one he called Aji, A''Ji, and it has like reference B, but I don't see any letter references. Maybe that's in the back. I can flip to the back. Okay. I will But I got to figure out where to find the B in the back at. I'll tell y'all tomorrow. Of 3 degrees of density created I them, and I commanded man to name them, and one he called Aj, and one Ga, and one nebula. Okay, hold on. That ain't the end. But now I feel some kind of way that I don't know what B is, and I said I'll tell y'all tomorrow, when that's not how I study for real. I will stop and go find it. Hold on. B. What did it say about? Did it say something about the letters, y'all? Okay, so we got the B. Hold on, y'all. Just a quick second. I'm trying to see if I see. No, that's not. Go back to the front. I might actually have to tell y'all tomorrow for real. I'll go back and reread. Y'all remember? Somebody know? Hold on. Notes. B. Plates. Nope. Letters. Okay. For real. I might have to tell y'all tomorrow for real. If I can find it. I might have to read through the intro again. Just to see. I don't remember. Editor's notes. I figured out. Yeah. If anybody know, let a sister know. If we're going to be watching this video later and you figure out what B is or figure it out later, come back and put it in here. Okay. We'll figure it out. Okay. Of 3 degrees of density created I them, and I commanded man to name them, and one he called Aj, B, and one Ga, Ji apostrophe Ay, and one nebula. But all of them are composed of the same substances, being like the earth, but rarefied. Nor is there on the earth or in it one thing, even iron or lead or gold or water or oil or stones, but the same things are in my atmospheric worlds. As I have given light to the earth, so have I given light to many of them, and all such have I commanded man to call comets, and even so named he them. And I also created atmosphere around about my corporeal worlds, together made I them. Okay, and that's the end of this chapter. It's reading like that old King James Version. So I'm reading a little bit slow. Make sure I'm reading it right. Not reading it too fast to give you a whole different understanding of what it's saying. Okay, so we ended at the end of chapter 2. This is the Book of Jehovah. Is not like a really long book. It's only a few chapters. It's real short. Okay, so let's pick up where we left off at in the meditation book on page 36. Okay, so we're talking about the Neter and the Neteru. You know, Yah is the Neter. We are the Neteru. All that comes out of him, or Neteru, gods and goddesses, right? Proceeded from the Neter, supreme being. All right, so now we saw this little diagram yesterday. This representing the Neter, Yah, and all that comes out of him, Neteru, which are described to us in the forms of gods and goddesses to give you each different aspect of the Creator, right? So each character has this function that it does that represents absolute divinity, right? Okay. So you have this next chart, right? It's the same, but instead of showing the pictures of the gods and goddesses that we know from ancient Egyptian theology, it gives the name of it. So when you see this up here, the Neter, yeah, this bird with the wings out. Get a little closer. This is for Facebook first. Hold on. Okay. Now, YouTube, see the bird at the top? with the arms spread out like that. That's representing the Neteru, right? Or the creator. All right. Diagram. The ancient Egyptian temple work. So you have the Neteru, and then coming out from Neteru, you have Haru and Neteru. Coming down, you have Nun, and beside Nun, you have Nebuchadnezzar and Makert. Coming out from Nebuchadnezzar, you have Amun, Ptah, and Ra. Coming out of Makert, you have Nat. Coming out from Neteru, Neteru, then Neteru comes down. Then you have Nat going to Neteru. I hope I don't get this all screwed up. If you got the chart, you can see the diagram, right? From Nat, it goes to Neteru and Aset, okay? And then from Neteru down here, you have, hold on, maybe I should get the other side so you can see that one. Then it goes to that, okay? So from Nebuchadnezzar, you have Ra, Amun, and Ptah. Then you have, going down from Ptah, Sekhmet, which goes over to Neteru. From Ra down to Asar. Asar goes down over to Aset. Then Ra goes down to Atan, Jehudi. And then Sekhmet goes to Uajit. And Nat goes to Aset, then to Uajit, then up to Neteru. Okay, y'all get it, right? Okay. So I was trying to give you the directions of those. If that made any kind of sense. And probably was like, what in the world? And girl, you can't explain that no better than that. Get the book, look at the chart yourself, screenshot, rewind it, screenshot it. Okay. The sages of Kemet instituted a system by which the teachings of spirituality were espoused through a temple organization. Bless you. The major divinities were assigned to a particular city. That divinity or group of divinities became the patron divinity or divinities of that city. Also, the priest and priestess of that temple were in charge of seeing the welfare of the people of that district, as well as maintaining the traditions and disciplines of the traditions based on the particular divinity being worshipped. So the original concept of Neteru became elaborated through the theologies of the various traditions. A dynamic expression of the teachings emerged, which through maintaining the integrity of the teachings expressed nuances of variation in perspective on the teachings to suit the needs of varying kinds of personalities of the people of different locales. In the diagram above, the primary or main divinities are denoted by the Neteru symbol. And remember, the Neteru symbol is like the little flagpole, right? Or it looks like the little flag that you stick in the golf ball hole, right? That's what it is. That's what it looks like. Okay. At least to me. In the diagram above, the primary or main divinities are denoted by the Neteru symbol. The house structure represents the temple for that particular divinity. The interconnections with the other temples are based on original scriptural statements espoused by the temples that linked the divinities of their temple with the other divinities. So this means that the divinities should be viewed not as separate entities operating independently, but rather as family members who are in the same business together, i.e., the enlightenment of society, albeit through variations in forms of worship, name, form, expression of the divinity, etc. Ultimately, all the divinities are referred to as Neteru, and they are all said to be emanations from the ultimate and supreme being. Thus, the teaching from any of the temples leads to an understanding of the others, and these all lead back to the source, the highest divinity. Thus, the teaching within any of the temple systems would lead to the attainment of spiritual enlightenment, the Great Awakening. All right, so next page you have another diagram, which is the same. It's literally the same chart, but it's a little bit more detailed now with the actual figures and how they drew them out, right? Okay, so this is called the Neteru and their interrelationships. Diagram the primary Kamash and Neteru and their interrelationships. All right. Okay. I'm showing it to Facebook first. We want to screenshot that if you don't have a book. That way you can kind of blow it up later so you can see. All right. It's going to start breaking down the function or the description of each. Okay. I would go through that whole naming all of that again. I will. Okay. So with the top, you have the Uajat, all-encompassing divinity. That's the wings at the top. And then you have the eye of Ra over here and the other eye of Ra over here, right? And under that, under each side, on the left side is Uajit. Then under this side, it has Nebuhet. In between them two, you have Nefertim, and Nu, and Mehert. Then under and Nu, going straight down like a spine, it has the theology, right? So directly down, it's literally like going straight down, and then it crosses out, right? Okay, so the first line is the Kepri Ra Tim, and it has the 3, right? In Christianity, we see it representative of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, right? In the different religions, you will see the same chart. The names are just different, right? Even in Christianity, all the way through. Okay. Clearly, if y'all ever seen some of those documentaries, and I think it's a couple people, I ain't even gonna name names, but anyway, quite a few people have gone through it over time, how the trios or the trinities, how they change throughout the periods of time. They have the right information. Some of it now I understand they was explaining in the wrong way, but they tell you, like, you see this in every religion and what each religion causes this trio or this trinity or this triplet and everything, right? Okay, so it's Kepri, Ra, Tim. Then from out, you have those 3 at the top. Then out from them to the left, you have Jehudi. Jehudi is represented by that human person with that bird's head, what's the bird with the ibis, with the ibis head, right? But you also see Jehudi in the form of a baboon, or you see like the baboon totem. So whenever you see that, it's talking about wisdom, or it's a representation of wisdom from the Neter, wisdom from Yah, right? Okay. So that's on the left side, you have Jehudi. On the right side, remember you got the 3 at the top, like the Trinity. The left side is wisdom. And then on the right side, you have Ma'at and Tefnut. Under Ma'at, you have Neteru. Yeah, hold on, wait. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm getting mixed up. Yeah, so coming from the right side, there's 2, Ma'at and Neteru. Remember, Ma'at stands for righteousness, justice. It's like whenever you see Ma'at, you have the balancing scales. Like if you look in like our legal system today, you always see the balancing weight, the scales, right? Ma'at is balance in life, righteousness, justice, right? Okay, then you have Neteru coming out with Ma'at. I forget exactly what Neteru is. Okay, so down the spine, the first cross line going across, you have Shu and then Tefnut. Then under them, the second cross going across, you have Geb and Nut. And then there's this dotted line that separates the top from the bottom, which from my understanding now is a representation as above, so below. The top part up here represents the righteous nature or the spirit, and the bottom portion represents the lower nature, the animal nature, the flesh. That's where you'll find Set and all them ones down there that has all the negative connotations and explanations. So under that dotted line, the cross still goes, and that first line under the dotted line is Asar and a Set. Out from Asar, you have Asar Sakar, then Ptah Sakar Asar. To the right side of a Set, there is, it's not pointing out, but they're off to the side. It has a moon and moots, and it has their pictures, and there is a line going out from them, and it goes down to Kansu, then down to offspring of Asar, the soul, and the Set, intuition, over to Amsu and Men. Okay, so come back to the cross in the middle of the spine. And that next line going across is Set and Nebuhet, right? Set is a representative of Satan, the Lord nature as well, that all the greed, malice, anger, envy, all those things that you're trying to get control over, right? Things that are contrary to the fruits of the spirit, or things that are contrary to your higher nature. That's why Heru and Set were always at war with one another. The higher self fighting against the lower self, trying to subdue the lower self so that the spirit can rule. It's the flesh, Set, and the spirit, Heru, right? Light versus darkness, this war that's constantly going on inside of us. Okay, y'all get it. Okay, so you have Set and Nebuhet, and all the way at the bottom is Neteru. Then it goes down to Heru, Sa, Asar, and Set. But beside Set, you have Asar, Jed, and then Ptah Asar. Down from Ptah Asar, you have Ptah Sekhmet, then Nefertim. Then it goes through that bottom line again. Heru, Nefertim, Heru, Sa, Asar, Aset, which is the offspring of Asar, the soul, and Aset, intuition, to Amsu, Men, right? And Amsu, Men, if you look at that picture, you will see Amsu, Men. If I remember that correctly, that is the coffin, the mummy, right? The flesh, the spirit that's housed inside the flesh. If you follow that route, you will be encased in the mummy, and you go to sleep until you're awakened, right? Okay. Hope that made sense. The same supreme being, Neter, is the winged, all-encompassing, transcendental divinity. The spirit who, in the early history, is called Heru. The physical universe in which the Heru lives is called Neteru, or the house of Heru. This divinity, Heru, is also the noon or prime evil substratum from which all matter is composed. The various divinities and the material universe are composed from this prime evil substratum. Neter is actually androgynous, and Heru, the spirit, is related as a male aspect of that androgyny. So when you hear androgynous in our day, you get this crazy, but all they're saying is androgynous, composed male and female, right? So I wouldn't necessarily term it that way. You wouldn't hear me say it simply because of the connotations when we hear the word androgynous today and what we see on TV, at least here in the Western world in America. I wouldn't necessarily use the term androgynous, but I will say that our Creator encompasses all, the male and the female, or the masculine and the feminine energies, right? Okay. Yes, Audrey. She said, do you have a book that goes deeper on these names? Yes, he has one. I forget the name of it. I got it. Just look in Amazon for Dr. OAHSPE. Go through all his books. Click on each one and read like the little blurb that it gives about it. And I forget the name of it, but he does. He goes into deep detail on all the characters and everything. Yes, it is one. I'll find it later today and I'll post it. All right. Okay. But it's on Amazon. Just look Dr. OAHSPE. Okay. The various divinities and the material universe are composed from this prime evil substratum. Neter is actually androgynous, and Heru, the spirit, is related as a male aspect of that androgyny. However, Heru and the androgynous aspect gives rise to the solar principle, and this is seen in both the male and female divinities. The image above, that chart we just kind of went through, Pa Neteru. The image above provides an idea of the relationship between the divinities of the three main Neterian spiritual systems or traditions: Anuian theology, Wasician Theban theology, and Hekapata Memphite theology. He has separate books for all three of those. I have those. You can get all three of those on Amazon. But also, like I said, at the beginning of all of these, he gives like description of all these different ones. And as we go through here, you will see that all of these gods and goddesses, he's going to give some detailed descriptions on all of them. So we'll get a lot of that in this book as well, Audrey. Okay. The image above provides an idea of the relationship between the divinities of the three main Neterian spiritual systems or traditions: Anuian theology, Wasician Theban theology, and Hekapata Memphite theology. The traditions are composed of companies or groups of gods and goddesses. Their actions, teachings, and interactions, bless you, with each other and with human beings provide insight into their nature as well as that of human existence and creation itself. Bella, can you turn it down some? Yes, all of that is yours. Turn it down though while you looking. That is loud. Okay, thank you. Okay. The lines indicate direct scriptural relationships, and the labels also indicate that some divinities from one system are the same in others with only a name change. Again, this is attested to by the scriptures themselves in direct statements like those found in the Per Heru text, chapter 4, verse 17. All right, remember the Per Heru is the book of coming forth by day, or the book of enlightenment, the book of life, or as named improperly, the book of the dead. Okay, so now the next page, where we at, 57? I think I can probably, let me get through this. Okay. Listening to the teachings. I hope I don't pronounce this wrong. Metschert. 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 Okay. So the hieroglyph for Metschert is this. Right here. That's for Facebook. YouTube. Okay. And Metschert means listening, to fill the ears. Listen attentively. Then it says, what should the ears be filled with? The sages of Shatut Neter enjoined that a Shimsu Neter, or a follower of Neter, an initiate or aspirant, should listen to the wisdom of the Neterian traditions. These are the myth related to the gods and goddesses, containing the basic understanding of who they are, what they represent, how they relate to human beings and to the supreme being. The myths allow us to be connected to the divine, right? An aspirant may choose any one of the 5 main Neterian traditions. And it has, number 1, Shatu and Nu, which is the teachings of the Ra tradition. The next one, number 2, is Shatu Menefer, and that's the teachings of the Ptah tradition. Number 3 is the Shatu Waset, which is the teachings of the Amun tradition. The 4th wisdom teaching is Shatu Netrit, the teachings of the goddess tradition. The 5th, I know I'm holding up my fingers, but I just wanted to make sure I didn't visually lose count because it's a bullet list. Okay, so the 5th One is Shatu Asar, which is the traditions of the Assarian tradition. And then you have the Shatu Atan, which is number 6, teachings of the Atan tradition. And you can find, if you look for Dr. Muata Ashby, he has separate books for these where you can go in and you can learn, right? So you can learn all of them. It's just going to take a while to go through all the wisdom teachings. Like we have the wisdom teachings of King Solomon and all these different books that I found out that King Solomon wrote, right? If you're traveling down the road, right, it's almost like stopping to get supplies. Say your destination is here, but along the way you got to get off and get some gas. You may need to get off. Depending on how long the journey is, you might need to pull off on another exit, a hotel to get some rest, gather what you need to get back on the road, right? So when you study in the course of life, this road that we're traveling, sometimes we don't get off the main road, but in order to get us safely to our destination, there are some detours we must take. We can't travel forever and not eat. We might die, right? These are needed detours or needed stops along the way, or pit stops along the way, right? So when you read these different teachings or get these wisdom teachings, it's like you're pulling off for a little bit to learn a little bit more. So that way, as you progress on, you will understand what's coming after that, because the road, I'll just say, while you're growing, even just like through school, if you look at grades from pre-K all the way up, the grades, they don't necessarily get harder, but it would seem harder to those who haven't prepared in previous grades. There's just some information you need to be prepared for in order to continue to progress, right? So the wisdom teachings are those things that you need to learn at this level before you can even begin to understand what you're going to find right here, right? So these are like needed ones. So you have the different ones you can go into, right? If you choose to study all of them, it's just going to take you a while, right? Not that you've gotten off the road, but you're looking at it, you're understanding how these wisdom teachings relate to the creator, to yourself, the place that we live, the earth, the spiritual realm, all these things, right? Okay. So that's what it is. An aspirant may choose any one of the 5 main Neterian traditions. Okay, so the next page, it's going into a little blurb about each one, right? So that's what I think. I think I'll go ahead and read each one. 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I'll read the short little overview that it has of each of those 5, and then we'll pause after that. Matter of fact, let me put my thing there. So we had like an hour and 2 minutes. It ain't gonna take us that long. But what we're gonna pick up at tomorrow is at a place where we go back to our favorite word that we learned about, entropy, because it gets into entropy a little bit and the forces of entropy. Okay, my big toe. Okay. The Anuian tradition, which was the first one on the list, Shatu and Nu, right? Okay, so this is the hieroglyph for Shatu and Nu right here. And go ahead and look at everything that they got on this page before I start reading everything. Shatu and Nu. This God being a representation of Anu. And I'll read all this when we get to it and all of that, right? Okay. The mystery teachings of the Anuian tradition are related to the divinity of Ra and his company of gods and goddesses. As a reference number 4, it says, see the book Anuian Theology by Muata Ashby. This temple and its related temples espouse the teachings of creation, human origins, and the path to spiritual enlightenment by the means of the supreme being in the form of the god Ra. It tells of how Ra emerged from a primeval ocean and how human beings were created from his tears. The gods and goddesses who are his children go to form the elements of nature and the cosmic forces that maintain nature. I see, babe. Okay. And so below it has the Heliopolitan. I'm sure I said that wrong. Heliopolis. The Heliopolitan cosmology. The city of Anu, Amun Ra. The netters of creation and the company of the gods and goddesses. Neteru. Nebercher, Amun, means unseen, hidden, ever-present, supreme being, beyond duality and description. And so this is where you have this little line chart again. I'll show it again. I'm going to read this one right here. This is Amen, Ra, Amenet, Ra. So then you have Shu, Tefnut. Then in the middle you have Hathor, Jehudi, and Ma'at. From Shu you have Geb. From Tefnut you have from Tefnut you have Nut. From Geb you have Set, Osiris. From Nut you have Isis and Nephthys. And across the bottom where you have Set, Osiris, you have Horus, Isis, Nephthys. So Horus being the offspring of Osiris and Isis, then it goes down to Anubis. Anubis? Okay, I said that wrong. Okay. Osiris, Isis, Horus. Osiris, Nephthys, Anubis. Okay. Horus is the offspring of Osiris and Isis. Anubis is the offspring of Osiris and Nephthys. Okay. All right. So down at the bottom, from the top, at the top, you have Ra. So this will be Ra, right? And then from left to right, starting at the bottom level, the gods and goddesses of the Inuan theology. You have Shu, Tefnut, Nut, Geb, Aset, Asar, Set, Nebuhet, and Haru, All right, so that is the Inuan tradition. Then we move to the Memphite tradition, right? Shatu, Menefer. I'll show you the hieroglyph up here. The top right here. The mystery teachings of the Menefer or the Memphite tradition are related to the Neterus known as Ptah, Sekhmet, and Nefertim. The myths and philosophy of these divinities constitute Memphite theology. And reference 5, see the Book of Memphite Theology by OAHSPE. This temple and its related temples espouse the teachings of creation, human origins, and the path to spiritual enlightenment by means of the supreme being in the form of the god Ptah and his family, who compose the Memphite Trinity. It tells of how Ptah emerged from a primeval ocean and how he created the universe by his will and power of thought, mind. The gods and goddesses who are his thoughts go to and form the elements of nature. The gods and goddesses who are his thoughts go to form the elements of nature and the cosmic forces that maintain nature. His spouse, Sekhmet, has a powerful temple system of her own that is related to the Memphite teaching. The same is true for his son, Nefertim. All right, then it has the Neters of creation, the company of gods and goddesses, Neteru, Nebashur, Amun, unseen, hidden, ever-present, supreme being, beyond duality and description. And that is Ptah and Sekhmet, right? And from Ptah and Sekhmet, you have Nun, which is the primeval waters, unformed matter. Then Nunet, heaven creation, formed matter. From Nun, you have Ha, boundlessness. Then you have Kuk, darkness. Then you have Amen, hidden. From Nunet, which is heaven creation, formed matter, you have Huhet, bound, Kuket, light, and Amenet, manifest. And their little family down here is Ptah, Sekhmet, and Nefertim, right? Nefertim is sitting on a lotus flower down here. Next is the Theban tradition, Shatu Amun. There's a hieroglyph right here. Okay. The mystery teachings of the Wassician tradition are related to the Neterus known as Amun, Mut, and Kansu. This temple and its related temples espouse the teachings of creation, human origins, and the path to spiritual enlightenment by means of the Supreme Being in the form of the god Amun or Amun-Ra. It tells of how Amun and his family, the trinity of Amun, Mut, and Khonsu, managed the universe along with his company of gods and goddesses. This temple became very important in the early part of the New Kingdom era. And so this first picture is them three right here. That's for Facebook, YouTube. As y'all can see so far, each of these theologies is taking you through the same type of thing, right? Just like what it would be with the Bible and the story of its creation and its family of Israel and how it passes through. Every different religion or culture has its own creation story. So this is just giving you the different ones that came from Egyptian theology, how they're telling the same story over and over and over again with different names of the characters who are involved in this whole story, right? Y'all get it. Okay. Below, the Trinity of Amun and the company of gods and goddesses of Amun. See the book Egyptian Yoga, Volume 2, for more on Amun, Mut, and Khonsu by OAHSPE. And I'm going to show y'all this one. This is the one they're talking about right here. That's their Trinity and the company of gods and goddesses in this tradition. Okay. Now, the goddess tradition, Shatu Netrit, then it has Arat, and it has the symbol for Arat up here. I see a lot of people teaching through the goddess tradition nowadays. It's kind of coming back alive, especially here in the West. They're still telling the same story. They still haven't figured out how all this stuff is the same. You just got different ways of telling a story using different characters, right? Okay. The hieroglyphic sign, or rat, means goddess. General throughout ancient Kemet, the mystery teachings of the goddess tradition are related to the divinity in the form of the goddess. The goddess was an integral part of all the Neterian traditions, but special temples also developed around the worship of certain particular goddesses who were also regarded as supreme beings in their own right. Thus, as in other African religions, the goddess as well as the female gender were respected and elevated as the male divinities. The goddess was also the author of creation, giving birth to it as a great cow. The following are the most important forms of goddesses. Then it has reference 6, and it says, see the books, The Goddess Path, Mysteries of Isis, Glorious Light Meditation, Memphite Theology, Resurrecting Osiris by OAHSPE. All right, and so here you have the goddesses from the other traditions that we just mentioned, and they take all those goddesses from there and they give them their own tradition, making all of them the main characters. So if you want to learn about it, say if you're a womanist, look, a womanist, it's not a word. I can't even use feminist because it's all chopped and screwed. So if you like learning about creation and everything, but you like women characters, I don't know, maybe your thinking is all messed up with me in a way. You could just rather learn with women characters. Then you would use the goddess. You would get the same principles and everything. Not to turn against the men like the men don't matter, because they absolutely do, right? You have to understand how the teachings were being taught and what they represented, right? Same exact thing as the male teachings, right? There was no what's the word? There were no stereotypes in Egypt with men and women. The women were respected just as much as the men were. But all the other religious factions and other nations, they absolutely hated that because they were in the business of manipulating their women, holding their women under their thumb, telling them that the women were only created for the men, right? You really have no high standing. Like, we can sell you all. I'm going to sell you for some wine or some new boots. Like, the other nations, they weren't rocking with that because they were taking advantage of the women. Egypt wasn't going for that. They said our creators did not create us that way, and we would not treat women that way, right? Come through, Egypt. I love y'all. Okay, look. Okay, enough of my foolishness. Okay, so these are the goddesses, and they are Aset, Net, Sekhmet, Mut, and Neteru, right? And then Mehert, the mighty full one, which is the cow down here. All right, this gonna give you some more explanation about Mehert as well. We ain't got to that yet. Okay. The Assarian tradition. I know I keep flipping this book around, but just in case y'all ain't got it or y'all got it on the way. Okay, this is the hieroglyph for the Assarian tradition, right? This temple and its related temples espouse the teachings of creation, human origins, and the path to spiritual enlightenment by the means of the Supreme Being in the form of the god Assar. It tells of how Assar and his family, the Trinity of Assar, Aset, and Heru, managed the universe and led human beings to spiritual enlightenment and the resurrection of the soul. This temple and its teachings were very important from the pre-dynastic era down to the Christian period. The mystery teachings of the Assarian tradition are related to the Neterus, known as Assar, Aset, and Heru, also known as Osiris, Isis, and Horus, right? Let me read the bottom, then I'll show you the picture again. The tradition of Assar, Aset, and Heru was practiced generally throughout the land of ancient Kemet. The centers of this tradition were the city of Abdu, containing the great temple of Assar, the city of Pilak, containing the great temple of Aset, and Edfu, containing the great temple of Heru. And it has reference number 7 after the great temple of Aset. See the book Resurrecting Osiris by OAHSPE. And so here you have Assar, Aset, and Heru, or Osiris, Isis, and Horus, or Assar, Aset, and Heru. Okay, same characters, different names. Okay, and this is the last one right here, the Atan tradition, right? Shatu Atan, and the Shatu Atan is the last one, or the 6th in that bullet list. As you begin coming to spiritual enlightenment on your path, you can choose one of these creation stories, rather, on how you can choose one of the creation stories of your choosing, or wherever you just find yourself being born into. We just found ourselves in a creation story from the standpoint of Christianity. We just kind of learned that story because that's what we're born into. Other places around the world, they may be born into the different ones, or if you weren't born into any of that, you can choose which one and kind of study that out. The principles remain the same all the way through, right? Okay, just different characters, different places, different times. All right, Shatu Atan. This temple and its related temples espouse the teachings of creation, human origins, and the path to spiritual enlightenment by the means of the Supreme Being in the form of the god Atan. It tells of how Atan, with its dynamic life force, created and sustains creation. By recognizing Atan as the very substratum of all existence, human beings engage in devotional exercises and rituals and the study of hymns containing the wisdom teachings of Atan, explaining that Atan manages the universe and leads human beings into spiritual enlightenment and eternal life for the soul. This temple and its teachings were very important in the Middle New Kingdom period. The mystery teachings of the Atan tradition are related to the Neteru Atan, and its main exponent was the sage king Akhenaten, who is depicted below with his family adoring the sun disk, the symbol of Atan, right? And we from where Christianity has branched out from is more than likely this particular one right here, right? Because who do we find out who Akhenaten was, right? Who was Akhenaten? We found out that Akhenaten, his name was later changed to what? Moses. Akhenaten is Moses. Remember, he was raised in Egypt, people. I ain't speaking blasphemy and heresy. I ain't been going off into some cult into Egyptology. We just putting everything on the table and we're looking at everything. We're going through everything. That's the Sundays. Oh, your book don't have the gold rays. That's me with my gold colored pen going through trace and stuff. Okay. Akhenaten, Nefertiti, and daughters. For more on Atonism and the Aton, I'm saying it wrong. For more on Atonism and the Aton theology, see the Essence of Atonism lecture series by C.D. Muata Ashby, copyright 2001. And that's what we're going to pause at today, right? Okay. So tomorrow we'll pick up with the great principles of Shatut Neteru, and then we're going to get into the forces of entropy. Everybody should now today understand what entropy is, right? And we're working towards a life of the least amount of entropy as possible so wisdom can flow to us. When you got high entropy, it's like you got high walls. High entropy, high walls. If the water is flowing, you just put the wall up and it's gonna hit the wall and flow past you. But if I let my walls down, when that water hits your wall and the floor over here, my doors are open. So that wisdom is coming in. I can bathe in it. I can grow. When I'm ready to push it out, then it goes wherever, right? That's it for today, y'all. It's Friday. Passover also begins at sundown tonight, beautiful people. It is April the 15th, 2022, day 83 of year 4, reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets. Another 4-year consecutive day count. It is day 1101. We read the OAHSPE, then pages 3 through 7. And then we started the meditation book on page 36, and we went all the way to page 45. All right, y'all. So remember, after Passover begins at sundown, and Passover is not a whole day. It's just for a few hours for the actual event, and then at sunrise, we begin the Feast of Unleavened Bread, right? So it's the first day, which is also a Sabbath day, which we ain't going to be here anyway because it is a true Sabbath. That's what the Jews call... my bread. Okay, yeah, we didn't get the ones with the bread. It's also called a high holy day, or twice the Sabbath, right? An actual Sabbath. And because it's the first day of feast, it's also a Sabbath. So it's twice the Sabbath, a double piece, double portion, right? And then, that lasts for 7 days. So this whole Passover feast is they're separate. Passover and unleavened bread are separate feasts, but they're lumped together like it's one all the time. And they call it either the Feast of Unleavened Bread or Passover. And they say it's like an 8-day feast, but it's not. It's 1 plus 7, which makes it 8. However you want to explain it, yeah, it's 8 days all together with them two together because they right on top of each other. So, but anyway, that's it. Okay. No, Talaine, Passover starts tonight at sundown. The 14th day of the 14th day of the first month. Then Feast of Unleavened Bread begins the very next day, the 15th day of the first month, right? And what we learn from the Book of Enoch, we also can double check ourselves by looking outside and seeing what phase the moon is in. Because if it's the 15th day, it's also a full moon. Yes, baby.
Why don't you give me 2 chicken nuggets?
Because I got 2.
I hate it too.
Well, don't eat the second one. Put it back, girl. Cut that out. What did you put in there on 4 minutes? Oh, yeah. That's done. Okay. So, just a little bit of checks and balances. If you are going to celebrate Passover next week, you can check yourself. Check the sky. If you don't have a full moon and the moon has already started to wane, Wane mean it gets small. I remember wax on, wax off. When the moon is waxing, it means it's growing. When it's waning, it means it's dying. It's getting less and less, littler and littler, right? So if it's already waning after the full moon, you are wrong. Your times are off. People gonna fight you on it because they got their schedules already set. And this 1 week, this is, I'm like, okay, well, the sky tell you the time is wrong, but I keep my comments to myself. But just to let you know, there's a way to check and balance yourself with nature. That's why we spend all that time learning about the time clock. So when people start screwing with the schedule, you should be able to put yourself back on track with where you really are with the Creator's true time clock, right? All right, so people that want to celebrate it later, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong, but I'm just saying according to the scriptures, we following the same ones, it should be followed here. And how do we know when this is this, right? Go to the Book of Enoch. Do we find ourselves in the first month? What do we find in the first month? In spring. Like all of those things you got to go through. Make sure everything line up. If you ain't lining up, like it tells you do the right calculation, like we said in the Navy, you are wrong, shipmate. All right, y'all. I'm done. With that being said, I love y'all. I'll see y'all back here tomorrow. May y'all continue to bless you in all that you do. And may all that you learn transform into true wisdom for your life. And may it bless you and those who are under your care and those who observe your life. May they be able to pick ripe fruit from your tree of life. I love y'all. I'll see y'all back here tomorrow. No, I won't. I just said that twice. I will not see y'all back here tomorrow. I will see y'all Sunday. We'll be resting tomorrow because it's a Sabbath. So I see y'all back here Sunday morning. And because it's the weekend, at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace.